Hey, You-est You listeners, friends, beloveds, amazing people out there. I am so happy to have you with me, and I'm so excited about our guest today. I want to introduce you to a beautiful soul, Daria Tsvenger. She is a mindset expert and host of the personal development program Dream Spirit, which has helped hundreds of people tap into the power of the brain to gain clarity and make their dreams come true. We're going to go all into that. She's also inspired hundreds of people on stages all over the world for clients, including Robin Hood, Prana, MGM Law, and the Happiness Planner. She has also shared her experience on science-based personal development on TV shows such as Good Morning, La La Land, and Simulation, and while having a loyal following of over 20,000 people. Pretty cool. Daria completed a cognitive neuroscience Stanford University extension program and had a chance to learn from top experts like Dr. Joe Dispenza, Tony Robbins, Dr. David Eagleman, Marissa Peer, and Dr. Loretta Bruning. And I just got to tell you, you are going to love Daria's spirit and her energy. And I'm just so happy to have you here, Daria. Welcome.
Thank you, Julie, for having me. It's an honor to be here with you on the You-est You podcast. So thank you so much.
Yay. Well, let's dive in. I want to hear, your story a little bit. What the You-est You, what it means to you, and a little bit about your journey to getting where you are today. Moving into that.
Yes, sure. So my journey was a roller coaster because it's never all good. It's just not possible, for your life to be always perfect. And I thought that my life was just super perfect when I used to live in Moscow. I was in my comfort zone. Everything was really, really great. I knew what I want to do. I knew everything about myself. I thought I knew. And then when I moved to the US, it was like for family reasons, and it was like very spontaneous decision for me. Not even for me, it was like our decision. And this is where all those existential questions really hit me hard. And I just lost myself because I actually didn't know who I am, because I was so busy with all these things going on for me that I didn't just have time to step back and to reflect, who am I without having 7 meetings per day? Who am I without doing this? Who am I without, I used to be a TV host in Russia, without hosting TV show? Who am I without doing that? And all those questions hit me hard because I actually didn't have anything to do when I moved here, and I felt really bad. I thought that I would never make it because there are so many people who are native speakers who just know this stuff, and there is no place for me. And I was going down this spiral, and I just started to feel pretty bad. And of course it was spilled over on my husband because I was blaming him for stuff. I just went all this route that brought me to a place where I could just cry in the middle of the day for no reason. Like, of course, for all of those reasons, but there was not like some one reason that would make me feel so bad. It was just my not understanding of who am I and how things work. And that's when I was talking to my mom, and she was like, Daria, you should really understand how your brain works. And she's a functional medicine doctor. So she was, during my whole life, she was like, okay, what's the root cause? It's just the symptom, what you experience. Figure out what's the underlying reason. And this is how I started to be interested in the brain and in the neuroscience. And it was a game changer. It was literally a game changer because when you can understand yourself, like I was granted with this body. I didn't choose this body. I didn't choose where I was born. I didn't choose all those little identities which kind of like define who I am, but actually they are not. And when you start to understand all of that and to peel off all those layers, you kind of like so bare and so frightened. And with learnings how the brain works, I was able to figure out who I'm not and what patterns are just really patterns, and why my brain always goes in this negative and self-depleting route automatically, because it needs to survive. This is how our brain is designed. We are kind of like primed for survival rather than experiencing, good emotions and thriving. And I didn't know all of that. And when I realized this bit by bit, and I went to Stanford, I was seeking this knowledge, I was practicing like lots of different tools. I had a coach, I had this, I had that. And then when I made peace with who I am, and when I understood who I am by peeling off limiting beliefs, fears, all those layers that were just telling me, Daria, you can't do this. Daria, it's not for you. There's so many people who are better. I started be my You-est You. I started be who I am when I tuned into this conversation with myself and became metacognitive. I was like, Daria, this thought, it doesn't serve you. Let's change it right now. And I was like kindly pushing myself into more friendly self-talk. And this is when I understand who I am, and opportunities start to just come. They just start to appear in front of me without me doing anything, without me pushing through or struggling on anything. And it was the most beautiful moment when I just realized, oh my God, this is how it works. Okay, now I get it.
Wow. Well, okay. So that's amazing. I love that, just your journey. First of all, coming to another country that was not your first language, I just hats off to you. That is not easy. I've traveled quite a bit. I've always thought when I travel, if I ended up staying here, I feel like I might be feeling like I'm a little screwed at first. It is tough to come in to a culture that's not your one from birth. And I think it's pretty awesome what you've done. And we're going to get into that. But you mentioned, I think, a couple things that I'm like, wow, we could go there. I do want to you talked about metacognition, which for those listening that might be like, all right, I kind of remember that in Psych 101, or I've heard that. Talk a little bit about what you mean by metacognition and then that voice. Because I think that it sounds like, from what I understand, both my own life and my study, but from what you're saying, that's really the key.
Yes. So becoming metacognitive is just tuning into this conversation that you have with yourself when you are able to experience your thoughts and think about your thoughts. So, for example, you're presented with this opportunity, somebody calls you out for a dinner, like it was my situation definitely, because when somebody was just inviting me to dinner or to lunch, it was like, oh my God, I will feel bad because I won't understand half of what people are saying. I would be embarrassed. I would just be silent the whole dinner. Why am I even going? And in order to understand for me that I have this conversation and that I can question this conversation, like, oh, Daria, why do you think that it will be like that? Why are you so sure? Why do you want to imprint this on yourself right now before even experiencing the situation? So this is metacognition, this fancy word, when we are able to think about what we think. And then after that, we can acknowledge and, talk back.
Yeah. So would you say that's kind of the beginning place, is to start to notice what you're saying and to kind of watch that? And if so, how do you, where do people begin? Where did you begin with that?
Yeah, so I began by understanding just how the brain works, neuroplasticity, and how we form patterns, how we program ourselves. Because before you understand that, it's really hard to question your thoughts, because your thoughts are just part of who you are. And in order for you to disassociate yourself with your thinking patterns, you need to logically understand why those thoughts are being thought.
Yeah.
To
awesome.
You.
Yeah. Even getting that one of the ways I've heard it, and this is something I sit with almost every day, these thoughts, they're not you. These thoughts are not you. We have 70,000 of them, right? A lot. And so I think, for you started to identify the kind of the thoughts, and then it sounds like you would actually ask new questions or have a new dialogue with those thoughts.
Yes. And it's in those little things.
Yeah.
So, it's those little things which happen every day. For example, Sometimes you have a really tough deadline and something doesn't work and you like freak it out and you're like, oh my God, I would never make it. Like this, all circumstances are very bad. And then they become very bad for you. But when you change your dialogue and say, oh, this is for me. This is so amazing. I love it. I think it's awesome. Game changer.
Whole different thing. Yeah, that's so awesome. Tell us a little bit. So talk to, well, before we get into, I want to talk about Dream Spirit. So what did you notice with your relationships? Are you still married? Like what happened in terms of, like what you're doing today, what you're studying? Because it sounds like you had a major transformation.
Yeah, I had a major transformation, and this transformation helped me to create like the most beautiful relationship with my husband because he's very emotionally intelligent person. Like I really admire him because the way he can, he literally, when we were, arguing with each other, when I was like feeling bad, my pattern of resolving conflict was just closing, not talking at all, and then overthinking and then like crying. So this was my like pattern. And he was like, Daria, let's talk. Ask me a lot of questions. Like, I don't want to talk about this. And he's like, no, we should talk about that. He's like, was very calm. And I think I learned from him a lot how he manages all those like people situations. And that's why he would never, be triggered by my inadequacy. He was like, okay, Daria, let's work through this. We have like two choices. We can either, grow stronger together, or we can just fuck up together.
Yeah.
So those are only decisions. So this really helped me to, to reinforce the relationship and to become more acknowledging of my own feelings.
Yeah.
So they can be communicated in a way that's reasonable for other person.
Well, I think what you're saying is important too. What I hear is like, you can't expect the other person to do all the lifting. You've got to have that wisdom and that deep kind of doing that work on yourself first. Like then you come to the table. You really did that. Like you started to change your own thinking. And what was your experience? So it sounds like you did work with Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I love, Tony Robbins. Like what did you kind of harvest from those different experiences?
Yeah, it's a very good question because there's so many people who are in this space right now, like neuroscience and personal development. Once you start to, express your interest, you understand it's like a huge space. And of course, after learning basics by myself, when I attended courses by those people, I started to connect and understand what they talk about. Because before that, I was listening online what they're talking about, and I didn't get it. Yeah. I didn't have this kind of like pre-knowledge, this base in order to even understand what they're saying. So in many cases, what I noticed that some people come to like Date with Destiny, Unleash the Power Within, and they come back and like, it didn't affect me at all. Like limiting beliefs, what are they? I don't have any. Fears, what are they? I don't have any. So even to come to this level when you can acknowledge that you have it, I think this is the point when you can actively seek knowledge. But before you are ready to acknowledge that, even to admit that, I think it's like a waste of time and money to actually pursue those, different but similar concepts in the middle of the day, like in the end of the day.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a level of openness too, being open. Talk a little bit about your work now, what you do now, and then a little bit about Dream Spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So what I do now, all those things that I've learned through my journey of like understanding who I am and what I actually want to do business-wise and stuff like that, it's crazy for me to notice how opportunities start to align. I just, got several offers from amazing like Silicon Valley startups like right away. And all people were saying, oh, Daria, you don't have like American education and you kind of like a marketing person. So who would hire you? You have like English as a second language and marketing is all about like communicating and copywriting and stuff. But your grammar sometimes really sucks. Yeah, and it just depends who you are and how you do stuff, and all those little details, they come like on the second layer after the person. So yeah, that's why I assembled all those steps that I've done into a program, into a cohesive narrative, which lasts around 35 days. And the main thing that I think is like super exciting, that it's 100% accountability based. So how it works, it's more like a group coaching program. So how it works, I send you audio messages on WhatsApp with content, with me talking about my experience, about why it works, citing different neuroscience research. And I always talk about where I got this information and why it works, not just theory, but like, here is the practice, here is the theory, here is what we do. And then you have 72 hours to do the task. And if you do the task, you can go forward. And if not, I delete you from the group. So this is as harsh as that.
Oh, nice. I like it. Okay.
Yeah, in order to go forward, you should commit. You should understand that you can like listen to thousands of videos and attend thousands of trainings, but unless you are putting it into work right away, it won't work. Just accumulating knowledge has nothing to do with, actually using and implementing this in your own life. So, yeah.
And when you came up with Dream Spirit, what does that mean? What's the goal? Like, tell us more, because I know there's more behind it. I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah. So this program is ideal for people who are a little bit stuck in some sphere of life, who are maybe unsure about their relationships or career, or even like personal health goals. So anything that you can imagine on your wheel of life. If one sphere is of balance, it means that pretty much all this wheel is a little bit of balance. And this is the process which is designed to do this personal development work in terms of figure out what it is that you really want and why you want it, and becoming confident that you can have it. Confidence is what we lack in terms of pursuing what we want, because all those internal dialogues that interrupt us all the time, all those fears and limiting beliefs and patterns, they keep us stuck. Although you want to go, it's the same time if you like press gas and press the brake at the same time in the car. It's like a tough situation. You're like overpowering. You're like, your system is so stressed at this point because you want, and at the same time you fear that. And because you fear that, you can't acknowledge that you want it.
Yeah.
So all those questions got answered during this 10 challenges, which last during 30 days.
Very cool. I want to go back to, because I deal with everyone, I think, listening in, myself included, has fears, has limited thoughts. Can you share a little bit, without getting too sciencey, like how to overcome those, like ways maybe that you've learned yourself, maybe with Dr. Dispenza, whatever, like just for people to understand, and then tools to do that, because I think that'd be really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. You mean some tools to acknowledge fears and limiting beliefs?
Yeah, I would say both tools. I'm curious, like if there's any, like what actually happens in the brain when you have limited thoughts or with fears, and then what are tools to overcome them, to work through them? I mean, I know you've studied it. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. The simple concept is that our brain always has a destination.
Yeah.
Our brain is always optimizing for something.
Okay.
And it always optimizes for the strongest emotional charge. So, for example, if you have some idea, and the emotional charge around this idea is really strong, and it can be something horrible, as like when people fearful like of some disease or some unfortunate event, because their brain literally like just turned on that,
right?
And they are attracting this because your brain doesn't care, like, is it positive emotional charge or negative? It's just going for the strongest thing.
Yeah.
And when you have the strongest thing, your brain starts to choose little by little every day, optimizing for this thing. And the way it works, we make approximately 20 to 30,000 decisions per day.
Mm.
And only approximately 10% go through our conscious mind.
Wow.
And yes, and 90% totally automated, and they are going without us consciously understanding that we really make them.
Wow.
And that's why all this power, all this 90% of decisions every day, they are optimizing for the biggest emotional charge. And like so many people, we just don't know what our brain is optimizing for. We have no idea. And when we have different understandings and different, desires, like what our brain thinks we want,
yeah,
and what we kind of like in the back of our soul really want, this is where it gets conflicted, and this is where this stuck energy in life just appears, and you just can't move anywhere, and circumstances becoming bad, and then you see that just things are not aligning at all, and that you think it's happening to you, and then you can just go very deep into this dark crowd just because you don't communicate your wants and your desires to your brain.
So, okay, how do you change? So if it's 90% subconscious,
Yes.
That's crazy. 10%, you're out of those 20 to 30,000 decisions a day, only 10% are conscious, 90% are. So how do you start to reprogram your subconscious? What are ways to do that so that it's more favorable?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think everyone wants to know that.
Yes. Recognizing stuff, it's really powerful. Coming back to metacognition, that's where powerful lies.
Yeah.
And maybe people right now listen to this podcast and like, oh, I don't know what's this metacognition thing. It's like total bullshit. I just don't like it. And this is totally fine, because ideas are simple, but they land kind of like you understand them in the right point of your life. Yeah. So sometimes people are just not ready for this work, and what I find with my groups, because like every time approximately 100 people go through this program, and I start to notice patterns. And I always tell people that I do not encourage that like you refer people to this program, because the very action of finding something on your own, and the very action of understanding about yourself that you are ready, this is when it will work. Because when you go with the mindset, oh, it won't work, it's just something, I don't care about that, and your brain starts to find what you're looking for. If you're looking for that it doesn't work, it won't. You will find all proof in the world.
So it's kind of which I've heard before, what you're searching for, what you're actually searching for is what you're going to look for and find. And so you really got to be you got to be very clear what you're seeking. Yes. Well, and this makes sense to me. I'm thinking even like what you focus on expands. I've heard that. Mm-hmm. So if anything really, like anything, if you are looking for a new job and you feel like it's not possible, you're training your brain to feel like there's no hope there, versus you meet someone at Starbucks, you meet someone here, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, there's all these people in the world doing cool things. So it's like what maybe you start to train your brain to look for ways that you could have a new job. I don't know if that's oversimplifying. That's kind of what I'm saying.
It's very simple, because our brain always wants to be sure.
Yeah.
When our brain is sure, it means that we will survive. This is just how our brain is evolutionary, developed by evolution, that we want to be 100% sure in what we do. We want to be certain what the future is. Yeah. We want to escape all threats. And that's why when you are looking for something, actively look, for example, you're actively looking for danger, and this is the default mode of our brain, you will find this danger. There is no other way. Like whatever you look for, you find it, because our world is so diverse, and you can find any examples in the world. Examples like very interesting thing. I have one relative, and he thinks that he's like, super healthy, does like all this health stuff. He's like 6 years old, so still young. And he was telling me, Daria, all wealthy people, they're really sick. Like their health is like a mess, and they just just have money and they don't have health. And of course, he had so many examples. Right. Like, oh, look at him. Like he had lots of money, but what is with his health? Oh, look at him. What's happened? Oh, look at her. Because when you're very sure in something, or when it is comfortable for you to be sure in that, because this is your stability point, you will find those examples. But you can do opposite thing. You can find people who are wealthy and who are healthy and who have beautiful relationship and who have like beautiful kids and all of that. Everything's possible.
So where do you fit the whole, teaching of law of attraction within this? Because I'm very interested in that. And I feel like there's a massive correlation. I'm not sure if you've studied that or what your thoughts are, but the idea, like literally, like there's gravity. We don't really talk about it, but I mean, we're all, basically in a chair seated or wherever you are, because there's gravity. Like that just is so. So to me, law of attraction is the same thing. What you are, who you are is what you attract. Do you have any thoughts on that? I always love talking about the laws of attraction, if we can.
Yes. Law of attraction is amazing. The reason I'm not using this when I describe my course and when I talk about it, because I don't want people to be scared of if they're not into the spiritual things at all. I want to make it like accessible for all people. So they're like, oh, okay, it's science-based. So because some people just block themselves from information that they think that for some reason, for example, I have a Muslim friend and she's like, no, like law of attraction, like it's like totally different spiritual concept, and I can't, it was like not comfortable for her. But science is comfortable for everybody. But law of attraction, it's totally can be explained from a science standpoint. Even Dr. Julie Reisler, he talks about two models of reality, like the reality which is functions on Newtonian physics and the reality which is functions on quantum physics laws. And the Newtonian physics, it's kind of like condition and correlation. So when you do stuff, you can influence the reality. I mean, like cause and effect type of thing. When there is a cause and there is an effect. So always there is a cause before an effect. Effect follows after the cause. And in quantum physics, it's totally different. Effect can influence the cause. When the electron is observed, it behaves in a different way when it's not non-observed. So that's why, and of course, this can be related to like a little bit of a pseudoscience, because not, for example, in Stanford University, if I was to talk about like quantum physics stuff, like, oh, please stop it. Like it's not recognized by academia yet, but they are there is proof that if we observe an electron, it moves in a different way than if we're not observing that. And on this theory, there are so many speculations, and that's why we have this like quantum leap, quantum field. It's not 100% proof, but it can be proved. This is how science works. You make an assumption based on some fact, and then, we develop our tools, and then humanity can access another thing.
That's what really well said. No, and I think when you start looking at it from a scientific perspective, understanding quantum physics, which I understand very little, but the little I understand, it's like, all right, this kind of puts it together, like when you get how that works. So thank you for going there. Why did you choose the words dream spirit? Does that have anything to do with kind of, tell us what got you to choose that?
It's dream sprint like when you run.
Sprint, not spirit. Dream sprint, you guys.
And
I made spirit in there, so sorry.
yes, and no worries. And actually, I noticed that it happened for me. It happened second time when it was on the show Good Morning La La Land. They also presented like dream spirit.
Oh, that's so
It's so
funny.
interesting. I think when because we are like into spirituality and into, you know, understanding different concepts, and that's why the word sprint, it's not so common for our brain. You know, spirit is more common, so that's why it goes automatically in more familiar thing. Yeah, like very basic example. And sprint because like it's fast and it gets results in 30 days. So you do it once and you pretty much set with all these tools, and you know how to do stuff after, because I'm not designing it for people, you know, to come back to me to do private sessions. I'm not doing any private sessions, any one-on-ones. I just do groups, and you do it once and you keep those tools, and then you do it twice a year by yourself. Because once you do this program once, you can literally redo it on your own. And I created it because I've seen that so many people struggle with their different life choices, and especially when change happens, either people move to different states or get married or, you know, have kids. All those transformational life events, they really affect us, and it's really hard to put yourself together and to reinvent your confidence. So yeah, that was my inspiration to create this program.
That's awesome. Dream Sprint. I love it. I love it. And we'll have all the information. Well, it's just been really fun to get to know you, Daria. Is there anything else that you wanted to share that could be helpful for our listeners that we didn't get to? I just wanted to give you a moment. Anything that's there for you?
Yes, actually, recently I find this quote that I really, really resonated with. And it's, let me remember what it was. Oh, I don't believe in miracles. I rely on them.
Ooh,
that's
awesome.
Read it, because this is the mindset when you are not just hesitant. Oh, will something good happen for me? Oh, will something bad happen for me? No, you rely on them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you attach to them. It means that you have this inner faith and confidence, like, yes, my life is amazing. So awesome things happen to me, and everything that is happening is just for me, and it's to propel me to the next level.
Yeah.
And this awesome. Like realization was like, oh my God, this is the phrase that I was looking for.
That's awesome. All right, we'll have that in there. I don't believe in miracles, I rely on them. Well, thank you so much. This has been really fun. I love this topic, and I think for people to understand that you can change your unconscious, you can change those thoughts, you got to become aware. Metacognition, which is really just observing your thoughts. And you have a whole thing around this Dream Sprint program where you can help people do that. Sounds like it has just totally changed your life, which is awesome, Daria. And I love like hearing the science behind it as well, and getting like the backing of it. I mean, I've experienced this in my own life a lot, like over and over again. And I'm just going to stick with, I love this. I don't believe in miracles. I'm going to write it on my mirror. I have quotes all over my mirrors. My poor family. I'm going to add this one. That is so good. You are fantastic. I really appreciate you, appreciate what you're up to. And thank you for being here today.
Yes, thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate this conversation with you, because I know that you're also in this topic and you also love it. And I hope when I'm in Washington or you're in Los Angeles, let's meet up in person.
Absolutely.